What's going on, everybody? Big shout out to DJ Rose Gold. I need everybody at home to really make some noise. I was here bubbling up in my chair like this. I was doing like this. I was shaking up my flag. I was jumping and waving. You know. Yo, I'm not gonna lie. Your set maybe Miss Caravana. You know what? It's Caravana at home right now. And you know what? I think this is the time that we have to really give you a very big round of applause. I need everybody to make some noise for DJ Rose Gold.
Thank you. I'll see you all later.
All right.
Bye.
You're going to come back in a little bit. I would like to welcome everybody to this year's Emancipation Day. Our theme this year is claiming our freedom and unity. So for those of you that are, probably wondering, what is Emancipation Day? Basically, Emancipation Day commemorates the abolition of the Slavery Act that became law on August 1st, 1834. And this act basically freed more than 800,000 slaves through the British Empire. So today is the day that we kind of celebrate that freedom. And especially with everything that's going on in the world today, I think this is like just fitting of, claiming our space, claiming our identity and doing it in unity. And I'm very, very excited to be a part of this event. Big shout out to the OBHS because, they've been doing great events for years. So a little bit about, DJ Rose Gold, for those of you that don't know. Dahlia Palmer, aka DJ Rose Gold, is a Toronto-based DJ. She's been doing her thing for years, and she's also a producer. She's basically played on stages with Jadena, Sway Lee. She also made headlines when she DJ'd when Obama came to Toronto for Future Skills. She's a former York University student, fellow York University student as well. And she also went on tour with Jesse Reyes. In addition to all of the great work she does, she has also been a founder of her media company called The House of Milo. And she's an author of a wonderful book that you guys should all look out for called Think Like a Boss. So again, she's definitely a powerful, Black woman that I respect. So I definitely want you guys to, show love to her because she is doing amazing things. With that being said, as you can see, I'm sweating. The tantalization is going to start today. If you're not in your seat today and you're not feeling motivated through the speeches, you're not feeling motivated through the music, through the performances, then you got to do something. So you can see my setup. I got the Nigerian flag in the background. I go by the name of Femi Lawson, aka Fine Boy. No pimples, just dimples, I'm going to be your host today. So it's going to be an amazing event. We have a lot of surprises and great things planned out for you. The Ontario Black History Society is excited to welcome each and every one of you from your home. So, sit back and relax. I know some of you are kicking up your foot on the couch. Some of you are just eating potato chips while you're watching. Some of you are eating jerk chicken, rice, and peas. Others are eating jollof rice and a little fufu. You are dipping inside the sauce. Whatever you're doing, it's going to be an amazing event. I want you guys to enjoy, sit back, relax, because you guys are in for a show. We have a full event this evening. You're definitely going to learn a lot, throughout the course of this. We are also welcoming everybody from all the different cultures around the world. We have people from Vancouver, Ottawa, Dresden, and of course, you guys are in my home right now. I couldn't make it downtown, so I'm at my family's house. But we are enjoying today. Today is going to be a tantalizing day, man. So we're thrilled because we have a wonderful keynote speaker. She goes by the name of Ita Sadu. I know many of you may know her. Feel free to also use the chat function to kind of interact with others and share your love, share your perspectives. And let's make this a very interactive process. If you guys have any questions, you guys want to applaud, make sure that you guys utilize the stage and go in the app. So for those of you right now, we have 110 people in here. So all 110 of you, hello, welcome, baoni, wagwan, however you say hello in your languages, that's what we're saying to you. Straight right to it. So ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce a former OBHS intern and now a graduate. She is going to do the land acknowledgement. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Razia States, and also ask everyone to listen for the Canadian National Anthem by William afterwards. So right now, big up to you, Razia. Take it away.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Before we begin this evening's Emancipation Day celebration, I'd like us all to take a moment to connect by first recognizing and acknowledging the land that we're standing on. As a Métis individual myself, whose background and mother comes from the province of Nova Scotia, in which my Mi'kmaq community calls home, and also an individual with African roots. Yes, my father was born and raised in Tanzania in Africa, and I'm so proud and honored to be doing it. So today we acknowledge the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of the many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, and the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. Thank you. I want you all to enjoy the celebration.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicings rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, thou who has brought us thus far on the way, thou who has by thy might led us into the light, keep us forever on the path we pray, lest our feet stray from the places, oh God, where we met thee, lest our hearts, full with the wine of the world, we forget thee, shadowed beneath thy hand, may we forever stand true to our God, true to our native land.
Hello, I'm Senator Wanda Thomas Bernard from East Preston, Nova Scotia, home of the Mi'kmaq Territory and one of the oldest Black communities in Nova Scotia, settled by the Black Loyalist. I'm really pleased to be joining you today as you do your virtual celebration for the Ontario Black History Society. It's an important celebration of Emancipation Day, the 186th year. And I'm so proud of the work that you have done to bring awareness of Emancipation Day, not only to Ontario, but to all Canadians. As you know, I picked up the torch from Rosemary Sadler and introduced a bill in the Senate during the last parliamentary session. That bill did not pass beyond second reading. And when Parliament reopened for this new session, a colleague in the House of Commons, MP Majid Jahari, has actually presented a motion in the House of Commons to have Emancipation Day nationally recognized. Unfortunately, due to COVID, that motion did not move to the stage of voting. However, as soon as Parliament resumes regular sittings following COVID, that motion will come before the House, and I feel very confident, we feel very confident, that that motion will pass. And once that motion passes in the House of Commons, I will certainly be reintroducing it as a motion in the Senate as well. I fully anticipate that in 2021, when we mark the 187th year post the abolition of slavery, that we will be celebrating from coast to coast to coast. So thank you, Ontario Black History Society, for your leadership in this work, in making this national recognition a reality. And I encourage you to continue on with your very good work in celebrating Emancipation Day. And I thank you for this opportunity to share with you. Happy Emancipation Day.
Right now, what we're going to do is to my left, I want to introduce to you the OBHS president, Natasha Henry. Before I even go and read Natasha's bio, I just want to say that I think the work that you've been doing has been amazing over the years. The countless amount of youth that you've helped, that you've given knowledge to, you know, when you're leading I look at it like when you're leading a ship, you know, as, you know, the person who is leading it, it's very important to give acknowledgement to, you know, even when you're going through your ups and downs, it's still the same kind of energy. And I would just like to give you that acknowledgement. And I'd like everyone to please give Natasha a very, very big round of applause from your homes. So I'll just read a little bio. So Natasha Henry is the current president of the OBHS. She's an educator, a historian, curriculum consultant, specializing in the development and learning of materials focused on the African diasporic experience. She is the author of Emancipation Day, celebrating freedom in Canada, early societies, China, Europe. Natasha also wrote an African Canadian first in the Sankofa Black Heritage Collection, first received in and she also received the 2014 gold medal from Moonbeam Children's Award for multicultural nonfiction. Natasha has also written several entries for the Canadian Encyclopedia on African Canadian history. She has developed an educational resource for several exhibits and web-based projects on the Black experience of Canada. Please welcome Natasha Henry.
Well, thank you so much, Remy, for the warm welcome. Good afternoon, everyone. It is so great for you to join us today to mark Emancipation Day. I wanted to thank you, all of our guests, for attending virtually. I wanted to send a shout out to our board members and welcome to our general members and to our friends, new friends, and hopefully long-term friends for joining us today. I wanted to send a thanks to our staff and to our volunteers who have worked hard to put this event together, as well as the students who we are employing this summer as part of our summer program, which we usually do, which is a great thing. So thank you today. And as well, I wanted to thank the participants, the performers, the speakers for participating in our program today. So as Femi mentioned, our theme this year is change, claiming our freedom in unity. This is not a new declaration or a new call to action. These sentiments embody our history of our long journey in the pursuit of freedom. Enslaved Africans who fought and rose up for freedom were claiming their humanity and claiming their freedom. There are a number of instances leading up to 1834 that influenced the push for abolition. There was the pivotal Haitian Revolution that lasted from 1791 to 1804. There were many revolts in Cuba. Some of the more recent ones closer to 1834 was one in 1825, in 1827, 1829, and 1833. There was the German Coast Revolt in 1811 along the Louisiana coast. And in 1816, there was a slave rebellion led by Busa. And there was a few in British Virgin Islands. In 1822, there's the Denmark Vesey Revolt in Charleston, South Carolina, the Bahia Rebellion of 1822, which went into 1830. And in 1831, there were two pivotal slave revolts, the Nat Turner Revolt in Virginia, and the Sam Sharp Rebellion, also known as a Christmas Rebellion in Jamaica, that was an 11-day rebellion. Also, in many of the European colonies in the Caribbean and in South America, maroon communities were formed, such as the one in Charlestown, Jamaica, Quiambos de Palmeiras in Brazil, and the Great Dismal Swamp at the border of North Carolina and Virginia, where enslaved people fled and stole their freedom to live in a life of liberation. Our ancestors knew then, like we know now, that African and Black lives matter. The legislation that abolished enslavement in British colonies came into effect on August 1st, 1834, as a result of African resistance, not just British benevolence. A Black cultural tradition was born. The formerly enslaved celebrated their marginal freedom with church services. They celebrated with parades, programs that included speakers and performances, dinners, dances, and a range of other leisure activities. Commemorations were held across this country, and descendants have carried on this tradition in some way or another. They were often supported by white and sometimes indigenous allies as well. While celebrants recognized the abolition of freedom, The realities of anti-Black racism made the constant agitation against racial segregation in education and the military, against racial exclusion in housing, employment, public services, and immigration. The changes in legislations and protections under the human rights codes are a result of the efforts of African Canadians who pushed for change. Black Canadians forged communities that nurtured racial pride, fostered a sense of belonging, developed skills, provided opportunities and possibilities, and created community infrastructure and institutions. This too is claiming our freedom. I believe, and the OBHS believes, in the importance of building our own cultural and educational institutions in service of our communities. The OBHS was formed in 1978 to preserve and educate about Black history. Education and awareness are important in the pursuit of freedom. As Marcus Garvey said, emancipate yourselves from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. Part of the vision of the OBHS has been to establish a Black History Museum in Toronto. We have long known the importance this holds, and the times we are in today, the uprising of Black Lives Matter during the summer of 2020 and emergency distance learning due to COVID-19 reaffirms the critical need for such a cultural and heritage space. It is our desire to realize this vision. We are aiming to raise $3.5 million to establish the only museum in Toronto dedicated to Black histories. In the soft launch of our capital campaign today, I'm excited to share with you now. I wanted to outline the working phases of our fundraising campaign. In phase one of our fundraising effort, is to raise a target of $750,000 to meet our priority of raising funds to go towards a down payment or a long-term lease. Phase two is to raise $200,000 to $300,000 so that we can create our plans and renderings through the services of an architecture and design firm as well as engineer firms. In phase three, the fundraising, it will focus on developing and raising money for the technological capabilities of this cultural space. In phase four, as we enter phase four, this will focus on raising funds of about $1 million for general construction and rehabilitation to prepare a building to move in. In phase five, we are looking to raise funds in order to maintain and sustain our operations. We have thus far raised $100,000 towards our phase one goal of $700,000. The OBHS welcomes donations, small and large, community gifts, and major gifts, as well as legacy gifts. We are accepting donations earmarked for our museum capital campaign and general donations online through Canada Helps. Visit our website to learn ways to donate and how to become members. Look out for our official press release and campaign kickoff coming soon. The Black History Museum is intended to further the necessary work of preserving and interpreting Black and African histories, heritage, and cultures, telling a more complete and nuanced Canadian historical narrative through the lens of African Canadian history. This landmark museum is intended to be a dynamic 21st century institution and will have an impact on millions of people on site and online, people of all ages. As I wind up my message, I'd like to share two things with you. This afternoon, there was an announcement by the federal government announcing that there were 4 new Black History National Historic designations. They include recognizing a boxer by the name of Larry Gaines, Richard Pierpoint, the West Indian Domestic Scheme as an historic event, as well as recognizing the historical significance of the enslavement of Africans. I also wanted to share a little bit of history with you. August 13 marks the 100th anniversary of the Pan-African flag. It was adopted by the Universal Negro Improvement Association, which was founded by Marcus Garvey and his wife Amy Garvey at their international conference in New York in 1920. The UNIA describes the meaning of the colors of the flag. Red is the blood that unites all people of African ancestry and shed for liberation. Black represents Black people whose existence as a nation or as an African diaspora is affirmed by the existence of the flag. And lastly, green represents the abundance of the natural wealth of Africa. This flag is a symbol of liberation for African peoples worldwide and is a symbol of Black pride. Let us mark this anniversary as we commemorate Emancipation Day and Black August. Emancipation Day remains relevant today. The occasion is not merely the acknowledgement of the end of enslavement, it is an integral part of the continuous fight for Black liberation. I encourage you to partake in the many Emancipation Day events taking place this weekend and to be part of the change that we are pushing to see. Together, we can carry on the tradition of our ancestors who claimed their freedom in unity. Together, we can reimagine and realize full, unfretted freedom, the journey that our ancestors started. I hope you enjoy the evening and thank you once again for joining us.
Very, very excited that, you know, all that news is being shared. For those who are joining us, for those of you that have been here, again, we would like to welcome you to Emancipation Day, put on by the OBHS. Natasha, the president of the OBHS, just spoke on you know, quite a couple things in regards to, you know, what the event's all about and the work that's being done on ground. I think it's very important that you know, as much as we are using our voices to be heard, we also use, you know, our points of contacts to create action that can create change, because change can only happen if we, you know, work in unity with one another. And I think, you know, during this time of this pandemic and the way the world is, things are happening. And I'm very, very happy to see, you know, a lot of change finally being made in a lot of areas. And, you know, the fight is still on. We are still moving strong, but it's very good to know that we have a very good base and support of many different organizations. You know, I'm looking in the chat right now, and it's, you know, it's so uplifting and great to see, you know, a lot of different organizations saying, you know, I support, you know, you have all my support, because things like that mean a lot. And I think people forget to acknowledge how far support goes. And support comes in the form of, you know, showing up. It comes in the point of, you know, writing a reference letter. It comes in the terms of, you know, giving a donation. And I really feel that, you know, during this time, we're starting to see a lot of that. So, you know, definitely, you know, give yourselves a big round of applause for, you know, being part of something so historical, you know, a Black History Museum. You know, I think it's so important. As you can see behind me here, I have a Nigerian flag. I guess on the topic of, you know, just kind of education. My background is come from the Yoruba tribe. So Nigeria is kind of split amongst three major tribes: Yoruba, Hausa, and Igbo. My name is Femi Femi, but the Yoruba name will be Oluwafemi. And, you know, the thing is with a lot of Nigerian names, they like to give names that have meaning. Oluwa meaning God loves me. And, you know, when you kind of go back into, you know, when you kind of trail things back, you know, speaking to my grandma and, you know, her grandma and things of that sort, you start to understand and piece together history. And I want to remind everybody, every single person that is listening right now, we all come from royalty. That's a narrative that's not as much, but I feel like we should also acknowledge that we all come from royalty. And that is why when we are upset, the world hears it, but when we're happy, we can make everyone smile. With that being said, I'm going to segue into Stephen Cook. Take it away.
So my name's Stephen Cook. I am the site manager of Uncle Tom's Cabin Historic Site. And I'm down here in Dresden, Ontario, which is halfway between Windsor and London, kind of north of the 401 a little bit. And I'm broadcasting from Uncle Tom's Cabin Historic Site, which back in the 1840s was a place where refugees from slavery in the United States came seeking freedom. And that's what we're all talking about today, is freedom. And you'll see the man on the banner here behind me, that's Josiah Henson. He is one of the main founders here of the museum. And you might know him a little bit better as Uncle Tom. He's known as Uncle Tom because of that famous book that was published in 1852. Maybe you can see it here. That's Uncle Tom's Cabin, a novel written by a woman named Harriet Beecher. Talks about life on a plantation in Kentucky for enslaved people. And the main character, of course, is Uncle Tom. And when Mrs. Stowe was writing the book, she really wanted her characters to come to life for her readers. So she did a lot of research, and she came across this book here. That is Josiah Henson's autobiography. He published that in 1849, and it talks about his 40 years of being enslaved in the United States, his escape to Canada on the Underground Railroad, and settling here in Dresden and starting up a school. Because, as I think we can all agree, education is very important. We need to know our past in order to forge our pathway forward. And he strongly believed in education, so he started up one of the very, very first schools ever in Canada. It was called the British American Institute. And it was right here on this property, 200 acres of land. And that's where my ancestry comes from. My family came up from Ohio County, Kentucky, following Henson and following his trail of freedom here to Dresden. And so we all have a rich, proud heritage to share. And I don't think that it's as well known as we'd like it to be. So I really want to thank the Ontario Black History Society for this opportunity to share Emancipation Day with everybody here. And what we've done is we've done a little recording special for the OBHS's event today. And it's a short tour. It's not the full thing by any stretch, but it's a little snapshot. Welcome to Dresden, Ontario. I'm Steve Cook, and I grew up in this small town. It's a rural farming community with a population of about 2,700 people. Of that population, there are roughly 10 to 12 black families. That's today. But back in the 1840s and 1850s, over 500 blacks were drawn here because they heard something exciting was happening. A school for refugees from slavery had been built in 1841. It was called the British American Institute, and around it developed a community known as the Dawn Settlement. The man behind the vision for the school was a refugee from slavery himself. His name was Josiah Henson, and it's his story and the story of these other refugees from slavery that we tell here at Uncle Tom's Cabin Historic Site. The museum is owned and operated by the Ontario Heritage Trust. We preserve, promote, and share Ontario's rich heritage. And it's Josiah Henson's story I'd like to share with you today. So we're now in the Josiah Henson Interpretive Center. This room is called the North Star Theater, and it's in this space where we talk about the African diaspora and trace the personalities and events from 3000 BC to the present day. Josiah Henson was born into slavery in Maryland in 1789. He was soon thereafter put on the auction block, and all of his brothers and sisters were sold away from him. But he was able to be reunited with his mother, and she raised him on the plantation, where he eventually rose to the position of superintendent of the farm. And in that position, you were paid a little bit of money. So he arranged with his owner to be able to purchase his freedom. But his owner took advantage of the fact that Josiah didn't know how to read or write. So he tricked Josiah out of his money, and that's when Josiah realized that his owner was never going to be a man of his word and give him his freedom. So he decided to steal his freedom. With his wife Charlotte and their 4 kids, they ran away on the Underground Railroad. It was a 6-week journey, traveling at night hiding during the day. They were helped by First Nations people along the way before they finally arrived up in Buffalo, New York. And it was there that they crossed over to the Canadian side and landed in Fort Erie, Ontario. And Henson stayed there for a few years, then went down to the Windsor area, where he met up with a man by the name of Hiram Wilson, who was a graduate of Oberlin University in Ohio. Hiram Wilson had already started up a few schools here in Canada, and Josiah and he worked together and decided that Dresden would be an ideal location to start up the next school. So it was here they settled in 1841 and started the British American Institute. Henson traveled extensively. He went to England 3 times, showed off products from the site here in England at the Great Exhibition in 1851, and that was where he first saw Queen Victoria. And little did he know that later in his years, on his 3rd visit over to England, he would be a guest of hers at Windsor Castle. She had read Harriet Beecher Stowe's novel Uncle Tom's Cabin and wanted to meet the man behind the inspiration for the character of Tom. He lived out the rest of his life here in the house that we have on the property and is buried in the Henson Family Cemetery, where your tour will end. So here we have a first edition of Harriet Beecher Stowe's novel, Uncle Tom's Cabin. She published it in 1852. It sold over 300,000 copies the first year in the United States and over 1 million in Great Britain. Everyone was reading this story, and then they began to question the characters that she'd created. Could this story really have happened, was their question, and she took offense to that. So she wrote a second book, which you see in the case here. It's called A Key to Uncle Tom's Cabin. And it was in that book that Harriet Beecher Stowe referenced Josiah Henson's autobiography, which he published in 1849. She said it was a source for her in developing the character of Uncle Tom in her novel. And that's how he became known as the real Uncle Tom. The Underground Railroad Freedom Gallery is where we have a collection of books and artifacts pertinent to slavery and the abolition movement, and interwoven within the collection is Josiah Henson's story. Knowing that a lot of our visitors don't have a history of slavery, we talk them through the beginnings, how it started in Africa with the slave trade, beginning with the Portuguese in the 15th century, and they were soon followed by the Dutch, the French, the Spanish, and the British. They arrived on the west coast of Africa and stole between 12 and 15 million Africans, loading them on boats, as you see here, for what was called the transatlantic slave trade. This is the uplifting section of the gallery called the Underground Railroad. It's here we talk about the 20 to 30,000 runaways who made it to Canada on the Underground Railroad. They traveled between 1830 and 1860 primarily, and traveled by foot, by wagon. One man made it all the way from Richmond, Virginia to Philadelphia by mailing himself in a box. And you'll hear his inspiring story when you come to tour the museum. The British American Institute lands were 200 acres of land that Josiah and Hiram Wilson purchased for $4 an acre. On this land were built a rope factory, a brickyard, a sawmill, a blacksmith shop, all these small industries that would teach these refugees from slavery new skills to survive in this new Canadian environment. Josiah Henson didn't do this on his own. He had the support of his wives, of course. His first wife, Charlotte, died the same year Uncle Tom's Cabin was published, 1852. And for 6 years, he courted this black widow from Boston. Her name was Nancy Gambrill. And they didn't have any children together, but with his first wife, Charlotte, they had 10 children. For 10 years, an assortment of abolitionists and missionaries, both black and white, kept the Institute going. An executive committee oversaw its operation, and Henson and Hiram Wilson went on frequent fundraising tours. The sawmill was an integral part of the operations here at the Dawn Institute. This land was covered with a thick growth of black walnut trees. They would be cut into planks in the sawmill, taken to the Sydenham River, which cut through the British American Institute lands, and then they would sell them down the river in ports such as Detroit and Boston, and that money would be brought back to be reinvested into the lands here. Behind me, in this house, lived Josiah Henson and his second wife, Nancy Gambrill. The house was built in 1852 and stands today as a Canadian landmark. It's a two-story structure, 2 bedrooms upstairs, and on the main level is the kitchen and the den. Spirituality and community were very important in these early Black churches. It was from the sermons and the songs that they sang that they received the inspiration to, as our ministers say, keep on keeping on. This particular church was one that Josiah Henson preached in when he lived down near Windsor in the Colchester area, and it was moved up here in 1964. Your tour will end here at the Henson Family Cemetery. Here you'll find the stones of Henson descendants, as well as the federal plaque designating Josiah Henson a figure of national historic significance. This was erected in 1999. It sits beside his tombstone. Josiah Henson died May 5th, 1883, almost 93 years of age. I hope you enjoyed your tour of Uncle Tom's Cabin historic site. I couldn't possibly tell you all of the fascinating history we want to share with you in such a short video. So you have an open invitation to come and visit us. Please visit www.uncletomscabin.org. There you'll find our hours of operation and some special content we're developing in the weeks and months ahead. We hope to see you soon.
Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home.
Emancipation Day marks the end of slavery in Canada. And it's really important that we acknowledge this day, because in doing so, we're acknowledging the reality that slavery existed in Canada.
To recognize Emancipation Day means to confront that history, accept our mistakes, and commit to changing old patterns.
And until we do that, we're really dismissing the history of marginalization that followed slavery.
I'm more than committed to make sure that this bill gets through.
I'm gonna lay down my burden down by the riverside.
I was born and grew up in Grenada. And in the early years, I remember those celebrations around Emancipation Day. Emancipation Day was celebrated always as the first Monday in August.
I grew up in a post-independence Jamaica. On that first Monday in August, we celebrated and still do celebrate Independence Day. But my mother used to talk about Emancipation Day, what Black Jamaicans celebrated before August 1st, 1962.
My parents are from Jamaica and immigrated here, and I'm born here in Toronto. And I knew about the history of Emancipation Day as it relates to how it was marked in Jamaica and in the Caribbean. But I had no idea prior to researching and writing my book that Emancipation Day was celebrated in Canada.
Without August 1st, 1834, I would not be me, and neither would be a whole lot of people of African descent in my region of Canada, southwestern Ontario, and I'm so grateful.
My great-grandmother was enslaved in Virginia and found freedom in Canada after the Civil War. And I don't know how I could possibly begin to understand what freedom meant to her.
People that are around us today, elders of both European and African descent here in Windsor and Essex County in southwestern Ontario, still refer to emancipation celebrations in terms of the parades and the midways and the talent shows and the Miss Sepia contest and the amazing food and just all of the amazing music.
The phrase, the greatest freedom show on earth, really spoke to the magnitude of the event. It went on for 2 and 3 days, and thousands of people would come together.
There were so many people who had been Underground Railroad descendant family members who were on both sides of the border, residing in Michigan, Ohio, Illinois, Indiana, New York State, and other places.
The joint activities of the linked by faith, by blood, by common cause, African-American and African-Canadian communities on either side of what my friend Afua Cooper calls the fluid frontier.
Emancipation Day celebrations have been held in August every year in some part of Ontario since 1834. In the 1920s, B.J. Spencer Pitt masterminded the Port Dalhousie Picnic, or Big Picnic, when Toronto's Black community took the ferry across Lake Ontario to Port Dalhousie, a resort town near St. Catharines. In its heyday, the Big Picnic drew upward of 6,000 to 8,000 people from Toronto, the Niagara region, and New York State. It was a major event on the calendar of Black Torontonians for 3 decades.
And that post-war period, when the language of the speeches and writings around emancipation in Windsor became a lot more insistent and a lot more demanding, assertive about the ongoing struggles that people perhaps weren't expecting to still be in place after the war.
So talk about Black internationalism. It's here in this Emancipation Day celebration. Here, the figure of the Honorable Marcus Garvey looms large.
And in my book, talking about freedom, I do talk about Marcus Garvey being the guest speaker that year.
You had all these different branches of the Black diaspora meeting at this picnic, meeting, thinking together, deliberating, planning, loving, praying, feasting, resisting, fighting racism.
The Black community in Chatham got together to mark Emancipation Day in 1891, decided that they would not have a parade in celebration. Instead, they would march in protest.
You see a lot more interest in immediate answers to the problem of segregation in Windsor, Essex County, and southwestern Ontario.
The 400-year presence of African people here in Canada, there is not one specific expectation that students in Ontario have to learn about this history.
Before we can make any change or talk about any freedom, we need to know our history.
The day after Emancipation Day, a day after August 1st, 1834, everybody had to go back to work for 40 hours or 45, depending on what island people were on, for the people they had previously been enslaved by.
The owners of those enslaved people were being paid for the fact that they were losing their labor.
William IV, who was king at the time of emancipation, gave the 20 million pounds to the former owners of enslaved Africans, which translates to $7 billion.
Freedom was denied effective August 2nd, 1834.
Last month, there was a lot of interest across the Canadian media in Juneteenth for the first time ever. There was a tremendous level of interest in this American celebration of freedom. And it was really important to keep bringing people's attention back to our own emancipation here in Canada.
And I go like Harlan to the Owen Sound celebration, and it always touches my heart. It's really a deep spiritual feeling I get when I'm there. I love the photographs, I love the cultural show, and I love going down to the cairn.
Sweet love, sweet chariot.
Making Emancipation Day a national event in this country is essential so that other people can also share in that sense of freedom and also move the agenda forward.
How can we get this justice that has been denied for so long before full freedom can be realized for African people? White supremacy has to be defeated.
I sense the urgency of now. I think the time has come.
Freedom is not a state, it is an act. It is not some enchanted garden perched on a distant plateau where we can finally sit down and rest. Freedom is the continuous action we all must take, and each generation must do its part to create an even more fair, more just society.
Coming for to carry me home.
Everybody, welcome back. I would like to welcome you all back to the Emancipation Day celebration. The video you just watched is called Freedom Delayed is Justice Denied. And that video was commissioned by the OBHS. And it's a wonderful video. Big shout out to everybody that took place in the video. 1 second. So right now we are going to get into our keynote speaker, Itah Sadu. So Ita Sidhu is a co-owner of a different Booklist cultural center. So for those of you that live and reside near or close to Toronto, a lot of you know about the different Booklist cultural center, the People's Residence. So it's a nonprofit hub and destination that provides a lot of opportunities and experience to culture, history of Canadians of African and Caribbean ancestry, and is located in Toronto's iconic Bathurst and Bloor neighborhood. So the mission of this cultural organization is to provide opportunities for Canadians and visitors to Canada to celebrate and engage in the rich cultural legacy and history of African and Caribbean ancestry while preserving a neighborhood. I know countless authors who have done book launches, from Amanda Paris to many more to name. One cannot speak of history, culture, and legacy in Canada without speaking of a different book list. The bookstore where it all started. Ita Sadu is an award-winning author, storyteller, and a managing director of a different Booklist cultural center. I would love everyone in the room to please give a big round of applause for our keynote speaker, Ita Sadu.
So good evening, everyone. My name is Ita Sidhu, and I'm the managing director of a different Booklist cultural center, the People's Residence. And I want to thank the Ontario Black History Society for inviting me to speak with you this evening. And they have tasked me with a responsibility to speak to freedom in unity. And so I want to thank you too for the opportunity of coming to you in the comfort of your home. And when you extend and invite me into your home, by extension, you are also inviting me to be part of your family and also to speak to the second drum on our bodies, which is the heart. So thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today with your heart. And so the other day, I was walking down the street, and this is COVID time and the pandemic time, and I was walking down the street with my mother, who is 88 years strong. And she was asking all kinds of questions. Ooh, why? The sky looks so blue. Why is it so blue? Why is the grass greener? And of course, we could hear the birds, and the birds were playing with each other, and the birds were laughing. They were laughing because they were free. No helicopters, no plane, no human beings messing up nature. So the birds had a freedom. And because we could hear the birds, we knew that we were in unison with nature. There was a unity between the birds, the grass, and the sky with us. And I continue walking in step with my mother. We too were in unison. And because my mother is elderly, she doesn't go fast. So she goes chip, 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 chip. And all the time that she's asking questions, should we bathe in lemon juice or lime juice? Why would you say that? I asked her. And she said, because my mother, which is my grandmother, she was born in 1908. She experienced the Spanish influenza in 1917. And back then, the indigenous knowledge of people in the Caribbean and places like Barbados said, if you bathe in lemon juice or lime juice, oh my gosh, you might prevent you from getting COVID. And so my mother was asking all those questions. And because we were in unity together and we were in unity with nature, a freedom of expression came over me. And I heard myself say, wow, I need to write a letter to COVID. When you have freedom, you can sound your voice in any hall, in any space, and even on paper. And out of my imagination came this: COVID, you define the present. COVID, erasing memories of the past. COVID, what is the future? You designed for me, invisible and apart. So this is my letter to you, because you are an enemy. But I'm not afraid of you, because I'm in big company. We gon' push back, we gon' fight back, we gon' mask. We're coming with our PPE. We gon' push back, we gon' fight back, we gon' trade race. We're coming with the PPE. COVID, my mother say bathe in lime juice. COVID, she got that from the Spanish flu. COVID, it looks like indigenous knowledge and old woman medicine coming through. So here we go. We gon' push back. We gon' fight back. We gon' mask. We're coming with our PPE. We gon' push back. We gon' fight back. We're coming with the PPE. The freedom of expression, the freedom of artistic expression. The moment walking with my mother allowed me that freedom to communicate to the world because we were in unity with each other and with nature. And then I told my mother, the Ontario Black History Society has tasked me to speak on freedom in unity. What do you think I should say? And this is what my mother told me. My mother said, darling, that is a real big topic. But here is the thing. Racism is never, ever, ever going to be ended in my lifetime and in your lifetime. Racism is something that is in people's hearts and in people's minds. And I said to her, wow, Mom, that's awesome. And my mother went on to say, Canadians are better at racism than the Americans because Canadian racism is trained and controlled. What do you mean by that? And my mother said, for example, someone might say, excuse me, Miss White, but you know, Miss Walcott family down the street, they're hungry and the children don't have food. And Miss White, the Canadian, she would hear that story and Miss White would pack food and send it down to Miss Walcott's home. And then when you return to thank Miss White and you say, Miss White, Miss Walcott thanked you for the food. And you know what Miss Walcott said? She has the opportunity to move next door to you. And Miss White is thinking as she's hearing these words, oh my God, I have to move because my real estate would come down. My mother went on to say, when children in great numbers go to schools, people who run the schools and the parents of other children in that school, they begin to think we need to move our children to other schools because Black children will bring it down. My mother said, that is racism. And because racism is an individual thing in people's hearts and in people's minds, there's a lot of work to be done on people's hearts and in people's minds. And so that is why we need hope. We need hope to build ourselves as people to deal with racism in the world. What wisdom at 88 years old. And so in COVID, when COVID came, people said, oh, my stars, this is a setback for people of African descent and Black people. No, I said, this is not a setback. This is a further setback. Because every single day of our lives as people of African descent, we experience a pandemic. The first pandemic we experience in the morning as women is, how do I do my hair? What do I look like? It doesn't matter how skilled I am, how knowledgeable I am, but I have to fit in. And so the first pandemic comes around the hair. And so before COVID, oh my stars, the setback was not having enough time to do your hair or just thinking to do it differently. But in COVID, the further setback was to find a place or not having the hair products to do your hair. And then after COVID, the other pandemic came into the world. This is not a pandemic called George Floyd. He was a martyr. This was a pandemic called racism. And Black people and people of African descent around the world went from 0 to 100. We came into the spotlight. We came under the microscope. And one more time, we had to look at our history and we remembered all the anthems over the year. We shall overcome. Say it loud, I'm Black and I'm proud. Get up, stand up for your rights. And we remembered all the songs and the teachings of Bob Marley. And now today we have the new anthem, Black Lives Matter. And so in this new world that we are in, but we are pleased to see the new world that we are in because our children and all people's children went out on the street to demonstrate, to say, we are tired of living the big lie. We are giving you, our parents, and the world a blank check, just like Martin Luther King demanded that he came to claim his check on the March of in Washington. Our children came out in the street in numbers to say, we have given you a blank check and we are going to get you to fill it in, not to pay to maintain a status quo, but to build and to develop a new world, because we don't want to live in the world that you have created. And so there is hope. And so in my statement of where freedom is in unity, I'm now going to speak to 3 takeaways, because we live in a take-out society. So there's always a takeaway. And when I think of freedom in unity, the first thing I think about is accountability. Not accountability among Black people and Black organizations. We have always been accountable among ourselves. And any time that we are not accountable, somebody jacks you up, somebody outs you on Facebook, somebody calls you up on the phone and lets you know what is in their mind. Somebody speaks so much truth to your power as a Black person. So accountability doesn't rest among us. We have to be accountable every day in a society. It doesn't matter how degreed, how skilled we are. We always have to be 10 times better. That's a lot of accountability. And so we must make governments accountable. Get that language right. That's what's going to unify us. We have to have the corporations accountable for all the promises that they are making and all the promises that they have made. Because before, in the past, in future, in Reconstruction, post-George William University, corporations and governments have made many promises to people of African descent, and then those promises slide. And then the next thing we see, that those people who were bold to speak up were ostracized. So our power and the freedom in unity is when collectively we as a community of African descent understand and be clear in our articulation that the accountability doesn't rest among us as a people, but the accountability rests with the larger society. That is freedom in unity. And my second takeaway is around the technology and the new digital world that we are in. We must master every aspect of that technology. We must say to our children, get into the technology, not to get a government job, not to get a well-paid job, but to ensure that our narrative, our stories, our legacy is told from our lens and from our point of view. This week in Congress in the United States of America, Congress who holds the propaganda and the narrative of African people in America, and they hold that propaganda in a box. And they are listening to 5 technological giants. Wow, 5, only 5, who controls the whole narrative of the world. And these 5 men are out of the box. I want us to observe those things in the society. And so when I say we must harness the language of technology, it is because the person, there is no person who's going to sit in front of you and tell you that you don't get the job or the bank loan. It will be an algorithm who in 30 seconds will determine whether you are worthy, whether you are a human being, and whether Black lives matter. And the third practical takeaway I want to give to you in a takeout society is about infrastructure building. Yes, infrastructure building. And so when the Ontario Black History Society and a different Booklist Cultural Center, the People's Residence, move into buildings that people can go into and they can meet and others can see the greatness and the legacy of our people, they will be further freedom in unity, because we will get to converse, we will get to intersect with each other and create new ideas, new technologies, and others we will invite in, as we always do. Embrace the world. We invite those people in so that they can understand and share in the narrative that we are presenting to the world. So our 3 takeaways are accountability from the state and from corporations, the harnessing of language as it speaks to technology. And one thing about technology and technological platforms always use the word share. And when we share things, then there will be greater freedom, there will be greater unity. And you people of African descent and Black people, I told you 3 takeaways, but I'm going to ramp up now a 4th one. And whenever we see each other as people of African descent, please let us see each other of how big we are. I wore brown today to show us how rooted we are in this country of Canada, from 1604, 1605 with Matthew da Costa to 2020 here in Canada. Wanted to tell you that. And when you see people, Black people, love upon them. Don't go tell the world crazy things. I am better. Who is that person? Don't put each other down, but continue to love up each other. That is freedom in unity. And so I am pleased that my mother reminded me that the task ahead to rid the world of the ills of racism and the remnants of it is not going to be an easy task. It may not happen in her lifetime. It may not happen in my lifetime. But with hope, we chip away at it because we have an awful lot of minds and hearts to change. But while we are attempting to do that, let's build ourselves as the mighty people that we are. Let's show ourselves as the unified, diverse people as we are. And most of all, let's love up each other like we have never ever done before in history. And always remember, despite how low the bar has been in life, the limbo dancer always manages to come under that bar and rise up and triumph. Thank you for having me this afternoon, and up you mighty race, in the words of the Honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey.
So right now, we are going live with Chef Warren Ford. So as you can see right now, he's in his kitchen getting set up. I see you at the one here, a big intro. So Warren Ford has been a chef for over 20 years and has been around kitchens for almost 30. A member of the culinary facility at George Brown College. He started back in 2008 on a part-time basis. Then in 2015 was hired as a full-time faculty position with the Center of Hospitality and Culinary Arts. As a former student and graduate of George Brown's culinary program, he now feels privileged to be bringing his skill and knowledge to the educational forum. Chef Ford has internationally hotel resort operation experience, having worked in such locations as Grenada, Miami, Bermuda, and Italy. I tried to do a little Italian accent there. As well as the experience at local restaurants, which include Wayne Gretzky's, 360 Cientara. I've eaten there before. It tastes pretty good. And Pascale Restaurante. Chef Ford was also the executive chef for a resort-style retirement facility in Toronto with a focus on upscale nutrition dining. His latest challenge has him representing to Ontario in a culinary competition at the CCFCC National Conference in 2016. Everybody in the room, please give a big, big, big round of applause for Chef Warren.
Great. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Welcome to my kitchen. Today, I'm going to do a little demo for you on a traditional Jamaican dish. Some of you may have experienced this dish for breakfast on a Sunday morning or Saturday morning. All right, so I'm going to be making a mackerel rundown, or my version of a mackerel rundown, also known as rondong, okay? A little bit about me. Femi just gave you a little bit of an introduction there. My background is Jamaican. I was born here in Toronto. My family's from Jamaica. My dad, my mother gave me a lot of exposure to Jamaican culture. So my goal as a chef has been always to sort of elevate Jamaican cuisine and experiment and play around with the different flavor profiles. So what I'm going to do for you today is, like I said, demonstrate my version of a mackerel rundown. The recipe in its base form is in the chat, so you can try it with that, experiment, have some fun with it. And anytime you have a recipe, that doesn't mean you have to stick to it. You can just sort of play around with different flavors, play around with the cooking style, and that's exactly what I'm going to do here. Okay. So let's get started. So I'm just going to move over here, reach into my fridge, and you'll see here I have some lovely little mackerel. All right, they've been cleaned. All right, typically for this dish, you would use salted or pickled mackerel. These came in fresh. I've salted them already. All right, so I'm going to give them a little bit of a rinse. All right, and that's just to get some of that extra salt off. Okay, the other thing I'm going to do, all right, I'm going to give them just a quick squeeze of lime. Okay, just like that. Let that lime flavor get right in there. All right. Okay, now the other thing I'm going to do, all right, in traditional culinary technique is I'm going to do what's called dredging the fish. Okay, so I have a little bit of flour. Typically, if I dredge something for frying, I might add a little bit of salt, I might add a little bit of pepper, but because I've seasoned the fish already, all right, I don't really need a whole lot extra. So by dredging it, I'm just coating it in a little bit of flour. And that's going to add a nice texture, okay, to the fish. All right. So here's my little mackerel, okay, ready for pan frying. Okay, and we always have to keep our kitchen clean. So over here, I have olive oil in a pan. Okay, I'm gonna move that around just a little bit. Let that oil get hot. All right, and my fish, I'm gonna place in there, and you'll see that start to sizzle. Okay, so what I want to do is get some nice color on that. All right. All right. Feel free to add a little bit more oil if you like. All right. So what is going to happen? Going to get some nice color. All right. I'm going to pull it out. I'm going to reserve it. All right. And then after that, I'm going to saute up some onion, garlic, thyme, and some chili, some Scotch bonnet. Okay. Everyone who's Jamaican should love a Scotch bonnet, right? Okay. All right. So if you look over here, I have my ingredients. I have my onion, tomato. I have red pepper. I'm going to add a little color. Add some scallion. All right. And my garlic and my thyme. Okay. So this is getting, the outer edge is getting some nice color there. All right, just take a look. All right, so that's going to make the skin nice and crispy. It's going to add a little bit of texture. All right, and then I'm going to finish the fish inside the sauce. All right, that I'm going to make with some coconut milk. I have a little bit of stock in your recipe. It calls for water. All right, but feel free to use, like, say, a vegetable cube, a little bit of water. All right, and that's what I have here. I'm just going to add a little bit more flavor as well. Okay. Now the other thing I'm going to add to this dish is a mashed banana, green banana. All right. Traditionally, when you have mackerel rundown, you might serve boiled banana, boiled yams. Some people might use callaloo with it on the side. All right, but for myself, okay, like I said, I'm going to dress this up a little bit. I have some lovely sautéed kale. All right. Like I said, I have my mashed green banana, and this is something that's actually a little bit dear to me. Okay. when I was sick, when I was 6 years old, my grandmother made me mashed green banana, and I still think about it to this day. All right, so this is something that I love to make. Okay, and I also have some boiled yams. All right, and I have some plantain. All right, so I'm going to show you that, guys, those a little bit later on. So my fish is coming along, getting some nice color there. The outer edge is getting nice and crispy. All right, and you can get this as brown as you want. All right, or as light as you want. Okay. All right, I always ask my students when I'm teaching, manage your heat. All right, so right now I'm at a medium to high heat. All right, and this fish is, like I said, it's raw. All right, but it's small enough that it's going to cook quite quickly. All right, if you decide to use pickled mackerel, all right, or the salted mackerel, that typically is cooked already. All right, because of the pickling process. So a lot of people, when they do mackerel rundown, they'll add the fish later on. Okay. All right. And feel free as well, all right, to use any type of protein you like. All right. Typically, it is seafood. All right. So some people have made it with snapper. I had one cook at one of the hotels I worked at. He made a beautiful rundown using jumbo shrimp. It was amazing. Okay. All right. This looks beautiful. Okay, so I'm going to reserve that. Okay, if you take a look. All right, nice color. All right, it cooks quite quickly, but I'm going to finish it off very soon. All right, so I'm just going to get rid of some of the oil. Okay, clean up my pan just a little bit. So I'm going to use the same pan. All right. A little bit more olive oil. Okay, my pan is still hot. My onion. Okay, this is going to create the base for the sauce. I really want to give that a really good saute. All right, I have garlic. I'm going to add about a teaspoon. Okay. All right, so I've turned up my heat just a little bit more because I want to start to release a lot of that flavor there. Okay, next, I have my tomato. Okay. Okay, now, thyme. Now, a lot of people, they'll use dry thyme, which is fine. But for me, if you can get fresh herbs, I always prefer fresh herbs. All right, so I'm going to put in some thyme in there. I'm going to add a nice herby flavor. Okay, so right now, I'm sauteing this out. All right, now just as a little pinch, okay? In here, I have pimento. And I just put a very small hint of pimento, okay? Not a whole lot. Okay? Right now, smells amazing, okay? Next thing I'm gonna put in there, our famous Scotch bonnet. Okay, so you can put as much or as little as you like. Okay, I'm just going to slice this. Nice and easy. Scotch bonnet adds not just the spice or that hint of spice, but it also adds lovely flavor. In there, Okay. A lot of people are afraid of Scotch bonnet pepper. All right, but I say don't be afraid of it. Okay. Feel free to indulge. Right, now, the other thing I'm going to put in there, a little bit of green onion. Okay, touch of red pepper. Now, another key ingredient that goes in here, coconut milk. Okay, so I'm going to add coconut milk, just about a cup, and I'm going to bring that up to a simmer. Okay, coconut milk is a key ingredient in rundown, all right? And typically it gets cooked right down, okay? Hence the term rundown, all right? Almost till it's dry, but I'm not gonna cook it that far, okay? Recipe calls for a little bit of vinegar. Okay, just a hint. And I like to put a squeeze of lime in there as well. I want to get that nice flavor out. There you go. Okay. And if anyone has questions along the way, feel free. Okay, let me know. All right. And I'm going to add just a little bit of my stock. Here we go. Okay, so this is coming along. I'm getting that nice coconut flavor, all right? The smell from the thyme, the aroma from that little bit of pimento, all right? The little bit of Scotch bonnet, okay, coming out. Okay, looks good. Now, I have 3 favorite words. Okay, and I always do this with my students. Okay, let's see if anyone can tell what they are. Okay, 3 favorite words when it comes to cooking. All right, feel free to put it in the chat. All right, let's see who comes up. My favorite cameraman Brian is going to tell me what comes up. I have 3 favorite words. I'll give you a hint though. I'll give you a hint. First word, taste. Okay, who can tell me what the second word is? Anybody? No. Who can tell me what the second word is? I'll give you another hint. Second word, taste. Who can tell me what my third favorite word is in cooking?
Taste.
Anyone guess taste? You got it. Taste, taste, taste. At every stage of the cooking process, you have to taste your food. All right? So we are about midway through. I want to taste my sauce. Getting there? All right. I got that flavor from the Scotch bonnet. All right. At this stage, I'm going to put in my mackerel. All right. So I'm adding this back now. Okay, look at these guys. Okay, right now, these guys are feeling good. All right, they love the space that they're in. I'm gonna add a little bit of salt. Okay, a little bit of black pepper. Okay, so right now I'm at a simmer. I'm gonna turn that over to make sure that everything is cooked right through. Okay, the other thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take some of that sauce, I'm going to baste it over the fish. Okay, and as you can see, my sauce is starting to reduce a little bit now. All right, so by my sauce reducing, I'm intensifying the flavor, all right? The sauce is becoming a bit thicker. And these guys are going to be ready very soon. Okay, now, while that simmers, I'm going to bring my banana up to heat. Okay, my banana mash. Okay, my kale is ready. Keep an eye on my fish. Now the other thing as well, if you find the sauce gets a little bit too thick for you, take a little bit of stock. Okay, it just helps to let it out a little bit. Okay, look at that nice color. All right, nice and aromatic, rich. All right, flavorful. Okay, that's what you want. Okay. Now the other thing I have in my oven, turn this down. Okay, ready to go. I made some lovely fried plantain. Okay, beautiful color, seasoned. Plantain adds a nice sweetness to the dish. Okay, and I have my boiled yams, yellow yam. Okay, let's check my fish. Oh yeah, oh yeah, that is looking good. All right, I think we're just about ready to plate. Okay. We're going to plate right here. Okay. First things first. Going to be some kale. All right. Well, kale's a nice alternative. All right. If you're not overly excited about kale, I love kale, but if you're not overly excited about it, use spinach. All right, but this definitely goes well with callaloo as well. Okay, I have my green banana. All right, gonna put down some of my yellow yam. This is already looking so amazing. Gonna take some of my plantain. Gonna dump them in there. Nice color, caramelized. Next, take my fish. Now, this is somewhat delicate, so we have to be a little bit gentle. Okay? So I'm going to get my fish, put it right here. Right here. Is that looking good so far, guys? Okay. And all I'm going to do is finish it off with some of this lovely sauce. Okay. I might taste one more time. Yeah. That's the one right there. Okay. So let's get some of that sauce on there. Oh, wait a minute. Forgot one thing. Having been in hotels, resorts, I've just gotten used to having fun. This is a little bit of sweet and sour mango puree. Okay, a little bit of color. Gonna put my sauce on that. My rundown sauce. Coconut flavors. Thyme. Habanero. Dress it up with a little bit more red pepper. A little bit of scallion. And for a little extra fun, some scallion oil. And there you have it. My version, mackerel rundown. Nice and easy, all right? The recipe, all right, again, is on the chat, all right? If you want to play around, you can play around like I did, but at the end of the day, have fun, okay? Thank you so much for being with me. Thank you so much for taking part. Great to be a part of this event, Emancipation Day, a great event for everybody in the Black community, all right, and the West Indian community. Thanks a lot, guys. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Hello, my name is Kevin Yarde, and I am the Member of Provincial Parliament for the Great Riding of Brampton North. I'm also the critic for community safety and corrections and a proud member of the NDP Black Caucus. First of all, I'd like to thank the Ontario Black History Society for hosting this event, this amazing Emancipation Day celebration entitled Change, Claiming Our Freedom in Unity. Now, over the last several months, people in Ontario and around the world have been fighting for justice and change. And as New Democrats and as part of the Black Caucus, we are on the front line fighting for that change. We will continue to fight to dismantle anti-Black racism in any form, whether it's in policing, in healthcare, in employment, in education, any sector. Now, as Ontarians of African descent, we have and we continue to make strides in the community. That is why we have to continue to enhance these strides so that we have a future for the next generation. So once again, I want to thank the Ontario Black History Society Board of Directors for hosting this Emancipation Day celebration every year, as a matter of fact. And I have something for you. On behalf of the NDP and the Ontario Black Caucus, we're going to present you with this scroll. So once again, happy Emancipation Day to everyone.
Welcome back, everybody, to Emancipation Day celebration. We would like to welcome you all. Earlier on, we had Warren Ford, who did an amazing cooking demonstration. We also had Itah Sadu, who said some amazing things, really left us with a lot of knowledge that we can now take back. So thank you for that as well. And on behalf of the NDP Black Caucus, we would like to thank you as well for the greetings. So right now, we're going to introduce, Adoma Patterson, who's with us right now. You can wave and say hello to everybody in the
Good evening, everyone.
I'd also like to welcome to my right, I guess, Dwayne Janus as well too. You can say hello to everyone in the room.
Hey, how you doing, Femi? You're doing an excellent job, man. You're doing well. You're doing well, boy. Better you than me, trust me.
I appreciate it. Yeah. So I'm gonna give you a little bio on the JCA president that we have, Adoma. So she completed her Bachelor's of Arts at the University of Windsor and has more than 25 years of progressive experience in the non-for-profit and public sectors. She's currently the manager, poverty reduction and community engagement in the Human Services Department at the region of Peel, and responsible for the implementation of a multi-year poverty reduction strategy and supporting initiatives that increase community safety and well-being for residents in Brampton, Mississauga, and Caledon. Her work involves creating awareness amongst residents and local politicians about poverty in Peel, advocating for various levels of government, investors, influencing policy, program changes, and social service initiatives with the community, and also to help implement actions related to social inclusion, affordable transit, food, income security, and economic opportunities. Since 2016, Adoma has also been the president of the JCA. Bam, bam, bam. Big up on the Jamaican people, them. A 58-year-old organization serving the Jamaican, Caribbean, and African Canadian communities in the Greater Toronto area. As a part of her current mandate, she's focused on increasing involvement of youth and young adults in all aspects of the organization, building new partnerships, and ensuring sustainability of the organization and the JCA Center located in North York. I personally have, done a lot of events with the JCA. Their space has been used for various programs, helping out a lot of people, young and old. So definitely, I want to give you a very, very big round of applause. You're doing an amazing job. Shout out to you and your team. And everybody in the crowd, I would love you guys to put in the comments. Let's make some noise for Adoma Patterson.
Thanks so much, Femi. It's so amazing to be here. I'm so happy to be here.
All right. So I'm also going to leave you with our OBS board member, moderator, Dwayne Genus, and he's going to be taking this away.
So yeah, I'm just going to correct you. There is Genus, Dwayne Genus.
I apologize. My Nigerian accent was
right, you have to get it right. That's right. So Adoma, it's such a privilege to interview you today. When I was told that I would be the moderator for this section, I was just really elated because I've always heard so much about you, and especially when I heard that it would focus on this initiative that was spearheaded by the JCA, the Meals to Go initiative.
Yes.
And in my research, for this, in preparation for this topic here, I came upon an article, the JCA Community Meal Initiative, serving a growing number of shut-ins. And on the next line, in big bold lettering, was no curry goat, no oxtail. And I said, wow, isn't that some kind of an introduction? So, it was interesting, but all jokes aside, I really want you to tell us about the evolution of this idea. What the challenges you faced, who were the key contributors to the project, those key figures in the whole effort, as well as how did it impact the community at large?
Right. All right. So Dwayne, first of all, thank you so much to you and the OBHS team. Shout out to Natasha. All of you are doing such amazing work, and the Jamaican Canadian Association is happy to be a partner with so many things that OBHS does. So 19 weeks ago, maybe 20 weeks ago now, all of us went into shock when things went in. We all went into lockdown. And at the JCA Center, as Femi said, people are used to gathering. It is the hub of community engagement. That's how we define it. And every weekend there are events. We do tutoring, the seniors club, organizations hold fundraisers there. And then all of a sudden the center was silent.
Yes.
And probably the first time in many, many decades where that's happened. And so we were approached by Elaine Thompson and Danae Peart, who have a grassroots organization called Community Strong. Sorry about that. We came together with Elaine Thompson and Danae Peart from Community Strong and really mobilized the community. Reached out to many of our seniors who were feeling really, scared and nervous. International students, we have an international students group of almost 200 students from the Caribbean who are studying here, could not return home. And then a number of people volunteered to come and prepare and then deliver the meals. And that's really how this started. And OBHS, along with Jamaica National, were the first to support this initiative. And we are in week 19, and we continue to rely on 3 amazing volunteer chefs, Chef Karima, Chef Sugar, and Traffic Man Tony, Elaine and Danae, and a team of volunteer drivers who deliver meals, hot meals on the weekend, all over the Greater Toronto area.
Wow, this is just, it's really incredible. And it's really a testament to how we can adapt and just shift gears, when required. The resilience of our people, when they say we're little but we're talawa.
Yes.
You know what that means? That, that is a representation of that statement. So, we're
Right.
so excited and even though there was no curry goat, no oxtail, we're still holding
Well,
it down.
we managed to do the curry goat
Right.
one weekend, and so people ask about it, but we do jerk chicken. I mean,
Yes.
it's always a Caribbean-inspired meal. We've done plantain. I saw Chef Warren with that lovely meal. So you're so right. And I think the theme of this Emancipation Day celebration, reclaiming our freedom in unity is also really does speak so well to the feeling and the coming together of people, some who we knew, some are JCA volunteers, others just stepped up. They said, how can I help? And they have been coming back faithfully every week and are now a connection to seniors.
Yes.
Many of them are still shut in that they don't know, but it's a face that they see every weekend with this delicious meal that is cooked with love, really, from the three chefs who work so hard every week, shopping, getting the groceries, the ingredients, seasoning the chicken, because you have to clean and you have to season in advance. You can't just cook the same day. So they're probably at the center now. And so we're so proud to be able to work with Community Strong on this important initiative.
Wow. And as you know, we my family, we've had the opportunity to partner with the JCA this summer too, in the summer tutoring program, with basically our little family organization called a Genius Nation, where we tutor math. And so we spearheaded, taking on the math tutoring program for the summer. And it's just been, more than a blessing, because you will see some of the comments from some of the children in the morning saying that, I love school. Why can't we do this every day? I said,
yeah, nice. And JCA, we're 58 years old this year, right? So we were formed in 1962 when Jamaica got its independence. And our oldest president, Roy Williams, he's 91, still alive and active. And so the JCA really is this coming together, both physically and now virtually. And we thank, the JCA family, both new and old, like you, and the Mr. Williams, the Eunice Grahams of the world, who really have kept the organization going, but more importantly, really figured out ways through many decades to support the community, to be a voice, to work with organizations like the Ontario Black History Society and so many others. And wherever we can help to collaborate, stand firm, reaffirm our place in the Greater Toronto Area, we are there. And so it's good. It's good work.
It's good work. Yes, we are very lucky, and we are just blessed to be kind of celebrating this moment together in a new normal. So with that, I want to conclude this segment, and I think we'll be looking for Femi to introduce the next speaker, or
and I'm back. Amazing conversation. Big ups to both of you, and for all the great efforts you're putting in helping our community flourish. So I'm really, really happy about that.
Hello, Mayor John Tory here. Today, on August 1st, I join Black communities and everyone across Canada in commemorating the 186th anniversary of Emancipation Day. Emancipation Day is an important day for Canada's Black community, but really for the whole country and for the entire city, every single Canadian and Torontonian. Because on this day, in 1834, slavery was legally abolished in Canada by the Slavery Abolition Act. It's a part of our history. I was a Canadian history student, and we didn't talk about this at that time. It wasn't something you studied. And as a result, you come to think sometimes that we didn't have a slavery in Canada, but we did. And this is when it began legally to come to an end. And I want to acknowledge that I understand that the past has created difficulties and challenges for Black Torontonians that the rest of us can't imagine. And COVID-19, to bring it to today's time, has highlighted some of the long-standing social and economic barriers that have impeded the success of Black Torontonians. But it has also shown us that we still have a lot of work to do, and it's identified what a lot of that work is when it comes to creating a more inclusive city that is equitable and filled with opportunity for everyone without exception. I know that a general sentiment of fatigue and pain and frustration has been and is still being experienced by many Black Torontonians. But please know that myself as mayor, the City Council I know as a whole, and the entire City of Toronto acknowledge that anti-Black racism exists in our city and in our country, and we pledge to break this cycle and do everything we can to address systemic racism in our society. We are working with our Confronting Anti-Black Racism Unit, something a first in North America we established at the City of Toronto, and working with all of the divisions inside the city, including the police service and the police board, to implement new ways to better support Toronto's Black residents, to better serve them, the businesses and the community organizations and individual people. You know, a great example of this can be found in an investment the city recently made in Ryerson DMZ's Black Innovation Fellowship to support Black-led startups. We're examining every aspect of the status quo, whether it be our own institutions, our processes, or even our own way of recognizing or perhaps not recognizing history. It sparked many discussions, like the one that we are at the city currently having about Dundas Street and other spaces and installations across the city. Emancipation Day is a day to reflect on the strides we have made, but also a time to challenge ourselves to do more, to do better, and to do right. And the three all fit together. I'm also proud to proclaim Emancipation Month in the City of Toronto, and I look forward to engaging with the programming being put on by the city's Confronting Anti-Black Racism Unit to commemorate the abolition of slavery in Canada. But today, on Emancipation Day, and throughout Emancipation Month, I hope that we can all renew our commitment to eradicating anti-Black racism within our city, while commemorating the many contributions made by Black Torontonians in shaping and bettering the city that we love. Thank you.
I'm pretty good. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I just wanted to let the folks who've been watching this event today, to let them know that this is the gentleman who was playing that rendition of "O Canada" earlier. That's apparently, if I'm correct, is that your version of "O Canada" that you created yourself?
That's right. Yeah, that's my arrangement. I did the production and everything, and I recorded it. I did it a few years ago initially, and I've kept editing it over and over. And so it came to me in a dream a few days before my high school graduation. Then I put it together. I was going to do it a cappella, but then I changed my mind and said I'm going to do it with this track I put together. I put a bass and drums under it. I put several orchestral samples into it, mashed it up together, and performed it. And I've been playing it, performing it, and I put together a video of it recently. I've been adding on to it ever since.
Great, that's fantastic. So from what I understand, you are one of 3 people that was accepted into the undergrad classical trumpet program at Juilliard dating back to 2018. Could you please tell us a little bit about what has happened to you since then?
Yeah, for sure. So when I got into Juilliard, it was really exciting for me. I felt that all the paid off and everything. But then very, very soon after, the reality set in for me that Juilliard was going to be very hard to pay for.
Mm-hmm.
The tuition and living expenses and everything, it all adds up to about $100,000 Canadian a year.
That's quite a bit.
So a very good family friend of mine, Andre Demise, he put together an online crowdfunding campaign for me, and so a lot of people, a lot of Canadians and people around the world stepped up, and they donated their money and support to me, and I was able to, with the money that they donated and what my parents were able to come up with. I was able to get through my first 2 years, and the experience has been very, very good for me. I've got so many amazing colleagues at school, and I get to work with the best faculty in the world. Lots of great concerts I've been able to be a part of and play in, stuff like that. And very recently, on June 3rd, I received an email with a letter being notified that I had been awarded with a Covenant Fellowship. What that is, that covers the full tuition, living expenses, books, pretty much all the. It was basically saying that my last 2 years were going to be completely covered, and so I'm not the most dramatic person in the world, but when I got that letter, I just gotten out of the shower, looked at my phone, I saw the letter on my phone. I ran out of the bathroom with just a towel in front of me and told the whole family, you know, I got the Kovner, and so that was really exciting for me. And that moment in time was just, you know, I felt really grateful for everyone who had helped me get through my first 2 years, because I didn't really feel like I would have been in the position to get a Kovner without all those people behind me. And it feels really good to get all that support.
That's great. So you've been at Juilliard for 2 years now. What would you say would be your most memorable moment so far?
Probably the very last concert. It became the last concert that season due to the pandemic. On February 25th, I got to play principal trumpet on Mahler's Fifth Symphony at Carnegie Hall. And so there was a whole audition process to get that position in that specific concert, and I ended up getting it, and it was really, really exciting for me, because that's a very exciting piece for any trumpet player to play principal trumpet on, and it's in Carnegie Hall. There's that 12-bar solo for the principal trumpet before the whole orchestra comes in bar 13, pick up to bar 13. And so that's something that every trumpet player has been practicing since they were very, very young. I've been practicing it since I was 12 to 13. And then I finally got to play it, and, you know, what better place than Carnegie Hall? So that's definitely my most memorable moment so far at Juilliard.
Okay. So do you have any advice for young people that are now going off to university for their first year?
Well, basically throughout my entire my mom has been my main motivator in terms of goal setting and stuff like that, and she's given me all sorts of advice in terms of how to achieve what I want to achieve, basically. And so before I went off to Juilliard, she gave me a whole list of it was basically a summary of what she had of all the things she had said to me growing up. So I'll probably read some of those here. So the key to living life on a new level is goal setting. Goal setting is what separates successful people from unsuccessful people. If you do not know where you are heading, you will just wander around aimlessly, living a life of mediocrity. People with goals succeed because they know where they're going. Ask yourself if what you're doing today is getting you closer to where you want to be tomorrow. Focus on your goal. Don't look in any other direction. Set daily, monthly, and long-term goals and dreams. Don't ever be afraid to dream too big. Nothing is impossible if you believe in yourself. A goal is a dream with a deadline. Set your goals, make the plans, get to work, stick to it. Reach your goals. The tragedy of life doesn't lie in not reaching your goal. The tragedy lies in not having goals to reach. A dream written down with a date becomes a goal. A goal broken down into steps becomes a plan. A plan backed by action makes your dreams come true. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. Goals help you stay focused on where you want to go in life. Don't be like the majority of people who have no goals in their life. Write down your goals and believe in yourself, and take daily consistent action, because there are no limits to what you can achieve once you get truly focused on success.
Some really good advice there. I really think a lot of people should take note of that. And I've got a question for you. When is your next performance?
My next performance is actually this Sunday. It's going to be my first performance since the pandemic started. It's at Ontario Place, and I'm playing a whole set at the Toronto Shines event. There's comedy, there's live music, and there's a movie. The movie is going to be Amazing Grace, the Aretha Franklin documentary, and I'm going to be playing all sorts of music for that, and it's going to be a good time. You just everybody, you everyone pretty much stays in their car the entire time. If you're getting out of your car, it's pretty much to use the bathroom with your mask on. And so you basically experience the whole thing from your car. Comedy, live music, and a movie. So,
well, that sounds like it's going to be the bomb.
Sunday at Ontario Place at 8 p.m. 8 p.m. Yeah.
8 p.m. Okay. And I understand you're going to prepare a piece to play for us today on the piano.
I did, yeah. This is Cacciaturian's Toccata.
Okay, so would you like to start now? And I'll let William take over right now with his performance.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Jordan. I'm currently on the OBHS team, and I'm so excited to jump on and moderate a conversation with two of Toronto's most important voices on the movement for Black Lives right now. We're really in for a treat. So Anthony Morgan is an award-winning leader and advocate with a special interest in intersectional anti-racist human rights education and advocacy, with a particular expertise in the area of anti-Black racism. He's also the manager at the Confronting Anti-Black Racism Unit over at the City of Toronto. Folks, if you could give a healthy virtual round of applause for Brother Anthony Morgan. How are you, Anthony? How are you doing?
I'm well, thanks. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you very well. We had Mayor Tory come and kind of talk a little bit about the work that your unit is doing. So we don't have as much time as I would love to, so we're just going to dive straight in. What are some of the tensions that present themselves when, mainstream and corporate organizations take an activist position? How do these things help or harm the movement?
Sure. So I think those tensions always exist, and so one of the things that can happen when major organizations, mainstream organizations of government that don't have a strong track record of serving the well-being of Black communities, sometimes that inertia that is developed over centuries, literally, can get in the way of good work to support communities, and in our particular case, Black communities. And so that tension is always there. But I think with support from Black communities, the support that led to the creation of the Toronto Action Plan to confront anti-Black racism in the first place, the agitations and organizing of Black Lives Matter, the pressure that created, and the ways in which Black communities from across the city and allies, of course, came together to push for change. That's what continues to create space for the work to move forward. And so it's allowed us, myself and my team, the Confronting Anti-Black Racism Unit, we're a team of 5, to be able to undertake a number of creative and interesting initiatives to support the well-being of Black communities in the area of health and community services, job opportunities and income supports, policing and the justice system, and also Black leadership and community engagement.
And some, we'll go back to that. How effective are these offices in making substantial, sustained change in Black communities?
Sure. Again, if we look at the history, mainstream organizations, states don't have a good track record. And so still being mindful of that and thinking about the kind of work that I want to do to create a space, a healthier city, a more inclusive city, a dynamic city, an anti-racist city, one that I could be proud that my daughter could grow up in and be okay. She's only 2.5. I think that those wanting to do that always means realizing that states have a role to play, organizations, mainstream organizations have a role to play, but by no means have they ever been the salvation or the emancipation or liberation of Black communities. That can only come from Black communities. But at the end of the day, for the 35,000 employees of the city of Toronto, at least, those folks, myself included, are salaried off of the taxes of Black Torontonian residents across the city. Sure. So why not have those folks get some meaningful return on those investments that often they don't have a lot of choice over? And so part of the thinking is, well, knowing that Black communities have contributed and continue to contribute to the well-being, the infrastructure, the cultural richness and energy of our city. And while at the same time we have socio-systemic barriers in policing, in child welfare, in inaccessibility to food, transit, childcare, and so on, myself and my team have been actively committed in saying, okay, we have to work our utmost to be honest and realistic about the limitations of the conditions we're in, but also engage in a kind of community-grounded struggle of love for our communities in this space. And so the question of effectiveness will ultimately be one that's measured on the basis of the inequities that continue to exist. Are we closing the gap in terms of the rates of poverty, unemployment, food insecurity, access to education, access to our community programs, creating more public health and mental health systems that are responsive to Black communities. So one of the major things that have come out just yesterday was official confirmation. I think Black communities knew that we're disproportionately impacted by COVID, but now we have the data to support that. But in the absence of an organization like the Confronting Anti-Black Racism Unit, who would we trust to translate that information to changes? Would we give that over to folks who've, by and large, not been representative of our community, or should we move forward with a system, an organization that's in place that has partnerships with community to make that data mean something for our communities in terms of shifting change, which is ultimately what's needed.
I was reading your article about, getting emancipation from last year, getting Emancipation Day at the forefront of our, culture or our understanding of the day. What are some of the ways that, organizations like OBHS, people, individuals can really elevate the role of Emancipation Day month in their own lives?
Yeah, Senator Wanda Bernard-Thomas, she had a bill that went before the Senate to get Emancipation Day officially recognized. I think there's an opportunity to support that. I know that there's a petition that's circulating, but also just raising our voices and as Black community members to talk about the significance and importance of this ongoing work for change and emancipation. We haven't realized full Black freedom, and it's going to be some time, but how long it takes is largely going to be contingent on our ability to work together from the different spaces from which we operate. There are people who work in academic spaces. There's folks who work within government. There's folks in community. There's folks in business and in various areas of life, in sports, entertainment, culture. How are we going to come together and ultimately decide that enough is enough? And our future generations can't wait for us to find a convenient moment for us to really leverage the different spaces that help shape Black lives and Black well-being. And so ultimately, my hope is that folks will see that this celebration, and I want to thank the OBHS for creating the space and continuing to carry that legacy forward, and the folks who are watching and supporting initiatives like this, to just continue to raise our voices and talk about the significance and importance and the fact that we are not yet free. And until we are free, the struggle continues in various ways for each and every one of us, no matter where we sit, whether or not you identify as an activist or an organizer, or if you love Black people and want to see Black people be able to be their full selves, you are a part of this struggle.
Amen. Oh, I love that. Thank you so much, Anthony, for coming on and sharing your information with us. I'm looking forward to all the things the Anti-Racism Unit has in store. Thank you so much again.
Thank you so much for having me, and congratulations to BHS on this wonderful event. And thank you, Jordan. It's great chatting.
Absolutely. Okay, well, up next, I'm going to be calling in Pascale Diverlus. Pascale! Looking lovely as always. How are you, dear one?
I'm well. Thank you for having me.
I'm good. I didn't introduce you yet. I got a little too familiar, so let me do that right. Hailing from Port-au-Prince, Haiti, Pascale Diverlus is a communication specialist, a digital strategist, educator, and community organizer. In 2014, Pascale co-founded Black Lives Matter Toronto, the first international chapter of the Black Lives Matter movement. Black Lives Matter is a trans feminist movement committed to the preservation of Black art, space, families, and life. There, Pascale work is focused on curriculum development, public education, and direct action coordination. Additionally, she's an independent consultant supporting organizations on equity-based assessments, internal review, and in the implementation of practices, policies, and protocols centered on equity and human rights practices. Pascale, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely privileged to have you here as well. Let's talk a little bit about BLMTO. It's really hot right now, and I think that as somebody who's been on the front lines for the last 5 years, you can kind of speak to the evolution of this moment that we're in. What would you say are some of the ways that BLMTO has been able to make and see real changes in the last 5 years since its birth?
I think, what's really important for us and for me to always recognize is that we are not the first Black activists in the city. We actually are building on legacies of Black organizers, Black activists, pushing for change, and really developing our city to what it is. And we are really just picking up that. We've picked that up and continued that fight.
Right.
I think is learning from those who have come before us. I think that we have been very intentional in really asking for what it is that we want. Like in the first demonstration, the biggest thing that became what was the big thing was that we said, if you are not Black, don't speak to media, and like being very clear as to the roles that we expect Black people to embody, and if you're not Black, you're not going to have those roles. I think also in being very direct to media, to politicians as to what is not good enough, what actually needs to be pushed further, what is not actually effective at all, being very honest with that. Very much from the get-go. And I think that we've been very intentional and very in centering all Black lives and ensuring that when we're talking about Black people, Black communities, we're talking about also Black queer communities, Black disabled communities, Black trans communities, being very intentional and not letting that be forgotten, and organizing from a place that allows those individuals to lead our movement, actually.
Right.
Because we recognize actually they understand best for all of us what does safety look like, what does a community look like that is inclusive of all of us, and so I think those are some things that have really pushed. To my first point, even at the height of our organizing, it was politicians like Mayor Tory telling us, I will welcome or allow for a meeting to happen. And because we are connected with Black organizers that have come before us, knowing that actually that's a tactic that's been done for decades, and we don't actually have to accept that or so forth, right? And that has made, I think, a big difference in our organizing.
How do you see folks and like organizations more broadly contributing to this movement of advocacy for Black lives? What does it look like for those who are not maybe the activist type? How do they contribute to this?
I think by understanding that we are all responsible for dreaming of a better world, whether we are activists or whether we are whatever it is at the role that we're playing, it's up to us to create a world that is safe for future generations, first and foremost. Secondly, I think, they actually need to understand how to center those who are the most marginalized, and understanding that the policies that they may be creating or the ways that they're supporting Black lives may be tailored to only one Black life, one type of Black life. And actually that will create the exact same world that we're in right now. So it doesn't actually need to be censored. And I think and even listening to those who are the most marginalized, understanding that a lot of the things that we are asking for, like right now in defunding the police, that are difficult conversations to have, that are difficult things to push for, difficult conversations even within our own community, that actually is coming from the direction of queer people, trans people, those from different parts of our community that is impacted by something that is deeply troubling and deeply problematic and deeply violent. And I think the last thing I would just say is that I would ask for like the bravery and the courage to go there, the bravery to encourage, to actually continue to push, to not accept scraps, to not accept pieces that better some of us but leave other of us out. The courage to actually say, yes, but more. Yes, but more. Our communities deserve more. We deserve more. The generations that are coming afterwards deserve so much more. And it takes a lot of courage to say that. But I think that we can do that. And it's actually only in finding that collective courage can we build the world that we are deserving of.
A woman after my own heart, as always. That's it. I think like I'm out of time, but I could go on for hours and days. Thank you so much, Pascale, for giving us insight into the psyche of the movement. We are grateful, we are humbled, and we are grateful for your work, like so grateful for your team's work. So now that we have, we've gotten our notes and our marching orders from these two important voices, I'm excited to see the progress they're sure to make. Thank you all for participating in this conversation and having us here. Take good care. Bye.
Welcome. My name is Kari Wendell McClelland. I'm so happy to be with you, connecting through the Ontario Black History Society and the virtual Emancipation Celebration. We're going to start off with some music here, a tune called My Time Ain't Long. My time is not long here. I gotta lay this body down. I got the hounds on my trail. It's a cross before the crown. We're gonna die anyway. Let's make a difference. It's hard to tell what's real. It gets harder every day. The direction's so clear. Obstacles are in the way. We're gonna die anyway. Let's make a difference. I know that we, in our silence, we've been asking. I know that we, in our silence, we've been praying. I know that we've been asking and praying. Time draws near, form circles, draw plans, choose love over fear, sing our songs and join hands. We're gonna die anyway. Let's make a difference. I know that we, in our silence, we've been asking. I know that we, in our silence, we've been praying. Yeah, yeah. Spirits below and above, show us some guidance and love. 'Cause we're the lost generation, and we have lost all our patience for your deception and lies. No more alibis, no more alibis, no more alibis, no, no. Spirits below and above, show us some guidance and love. 'Cause we're the lost generation, and we've lost all our patience for your deception and lies. No more alibis, no more alibis, no more alibis, no, no. Spirits below and above, show us some guidance and love. 'Cause we're the lost generation, and we have lost all our patience. Thank you. I think it's a good time to introduce the players that I have the pleasure and honor to work with. Here we have Janelle Reed, Mary Ann Chetta, Daniel Ruiz, and Noah Walker. You know, I had the opportunity to do a project called the Freedom Singer Project, and it was a project where I attempted to connect with the roots of my family ancestry, and specifically an ancestor named Kizzy, my great-great-great-grandmother, who fled slavery in the southern United States and went into southern Ontario in around the 1850s. And it was really through this journey that I came to learn a lot about the histories of the United States and Canada. Learned that slavery existed in Canada and that sometimes it was more brutal and sometimes people were escaping from Canada into the United States, disrupting a lot of mythology and a lot of story around who's good and who's bad. And you know, the one thing that's really awesome about this song is that if you're at home and you wanted to join in, all you have to do is just say, mm-hmm, mm-hmm, just like that. Let's try that one more time. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I feel like they got this. Cease to agitate, we will, when the slave whip sound is still. Mm-hmm. When no more on guiltless limb, fetters cut their circlet grim. Mm-hmm. When no more hounds thirst for blood, scouring the thorny Georgian woods. Mm-hmm. When no more mothers pleading prayer, quivers on the southern air. On that day, we will be family equal, born and free. Dawn will come, night will cease, we'll rejoice, minds at ease. On that day, we'll work and wait. That's when we'll cease to agitate. That's when we will cease to agitate. That's when we will cease to agitate. That's when we will cease to agitate. Well, here we are today, still pushing for equal pay. And these treaty rights don't hold, they're shiny like the Judas gold. And the blood still remains, a mother's only son slain. And our kids are crying out for more, continually being ignored. On that day, we will be family equal, born and free. Dawn will come, night will cease, we'll rejoice, mind at ease. For that day we'll work and wait. That's when we'll cease to agitate. That's when we will cease to agitate. That's when we will cease to agitate. That's when we hey! That's when we will cease to agitate. That's when we will cease to agitate. That's when we will cease to agitate. Yes, that is when we will cease to agitate. And just so that it's clear, that was actually a sort of collaboration with a really old artist writing and myself, bringing old lyrics and contemporary lyrics to create a new song. That was Song of the Agitator from the Freedom Singer album. We're going to get into this new tune for you. It's a tune called Since When. 1, 2. makes it hard. No PTA, no crossing guard, no band-aid, just scars on scars. No therapy, just locks on bars. Left out in the rain, no affection, just growing pains. Dow Jones and his capital gains, no answers, just silent refrains. Trembling and shaking, oh God, the children forsaken. Since when? Since when? Winners keep on taking, said the bread ain't for breaking. Since when? Since when? To recline. Every day is grind, grind, grind. Money, 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 always on my mind. Water, air, earth, the fire. The family unreconciled. Fire raging, anti-saging, terrain changing. But peace comes once in a while. Trembling and shaking, oh God, the children forsaken. Since when? Since when? Winners keep on taking, said the bread ain't for breaking. Since when? Since when? Since dispossession and genocide, black gold to the sun. Since when? Fannie Lou Hamer. Since when? Ida B. Wells. Since when? Nat Turner. Since when? Sojourner Truth. Since when? George Floyd. Since when? Breonna Taylor. Since when? Malcolm. Since when? W.E.B. Du Bois. Since when? Harriet Tubman. Since when? Leona May. Since when? Trayvon Martin. Since when? Oscar Brown Jr. Since when? Kizzy. Since when? Zora Neale. Since when? Sadia Hartman. Since when? Arthur Jafer. Since when? Kerry James Marshall. Since when? Octavia Butler. Since when? Muhammad Ali. Since when? Toni Morrison. Since when? 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 Thank you all for spending so much time with us. We really appreciate you. And want to give special thanks again to the Ontario
Black History Society, and want to say how grateful we are to have been a part of the Emancipation celebration. Thank you.
You are the salt, and I am the pepper. People tend to not like me at first, but try to get rid of me when you get a taste for my brain. And when you mix them together just right, they're perfect.
Voodoo like salt and pepper.
Can you get the door?
Let go!
When is it gonna be over?
Our film, Brothers in Babylon, is a neo-realist drama about two brothers, one black and one white, who are ripped apart by the tides of modern life.
Is now embraced by some as a badge of empowerment.
Queer, Indo-Caribbean, and Canada is almost speaking about an impossibility.
We sometimes feel divided as Caribbean people. We sometimes hold on to one identity or the other and forget that we are multiple identities.
When I tell people that I'm Chinese Trinidadian, I get the response, "You don't look mixed at all." They need to reconcile how I look with where I'm from.
No, you're not black. You are Trinidadian.
Había una vez un hombre. El hombre bajaba a la orilla de la mar. La mar se enamoró del hombre y lo quiso sorprender con un hijo blanco, así como tú, y un hijo negro. Dios, hijo de la luna y la noche.
So what am I going to be doing at Carnival? I actually don't really know. I know I've got a t-shirt because I'm going to get covered in chocolate on the Sunday. I've never been on the Sunday, so I've never witnessed this happening. I'm jumping up.
So almost any member of the African Canadian community in Windsor has some connection to the Emancipation celebrations. It was something that was so important culturally for people in our community, but really for people even outside of our cultural community. And for me personally, my grandmother was the secretary of the organization for a number of years. All of my mother and all of her siblings and my grandfather certainly participated in it a lot, and it was something that I just grew up hearing about all the time. But for a period of decades, there were thousands of people that came every year. Individuals from New York State and Ohio and Illinois and Indiana and Pennsylvania and West Virginia and all of these places, and from other parts of Canada as well, who would just descend on this spot because it was just such an amazing celebration, so uplifting.
I think back in the 90s, they tried to do emancipation stuff in Amherstburg, but it just wasn't the same. And for a while, they tried to do stuff in Micmac Park, but it just wasn't the same. Nothing was the same as marching from Detroit River down Olette to Jackson Park to the midway there and the barbecue pit and the rides, the band shell and everything. And a lot of the bands and things would come up from the States, from the historic Black colleges down there, like in Ohio and Pennsylvania. They would come here and join in that stuff. That's where the drill teams came from the Black fraternities and stuff. So that was really cool.
It was known as the greatest freedom show on earth. And Walter Perry, who was the chair of the BAACB for years, was known as Mr. Emancipation. And it was just an incredibly great opportunity for people of African descent who were interested in activism and who were striving for equal rights here to have that chance to hear from the great civil rights leaders of the United States was something that many of them still talk about to this day. All my years growing up, I always heard my mother talking about when she met Martin Luther King, how much it meant to her that he was in her town, sharing his stories, but not just talking about what he was doing and what the civil rights activists were doing in the American South, but encouraging people here to do what they could to bring about a true brotherhood between people of different races. And that was so important.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the greatest international freedom show on earth. Welcome to Windsor, Ontario, otherwise unknown.
The kids that didn't get to experience that Windsor had to offer really missed something that really would have helped make them much more worldly and open, in us as a city as a whole, had they not stopped that. It was everybody's celebration. It wasn't just for Black people, whatever. It was, it was for everybody. And when you see pictures of the streets lined, you will see all people there on those streets. It is a very strong yet ignored identifier of one of the parts of Canadian culture.
Can you imagine? The Supremes, the Temptations, Eleanor Roosevelt.
It was such a fabulous get-together of people from all over the place to celebrate the fact that so many people worked in what really was the biggest international freedom movement in the world, and that's the Underground Railroad, right? And it was a celebration of that. And a lot of people think of the Underground Railroad as something that's a part of Black history, but it's not, because it was allies, white allies, Native allies of good conscience that helped to work to free people from slavery. And I think that to not celebrate that in some way is to discount the power of that kind of work and the necessity of that kind of work still in our world today, with so much injustice still going on, And that's why history is so important for people to be aware of.
It is possible for people to work together and celebrate together and get along. And especially in this time, which is so much about division, it's just really great to look back on those examples of people of different cultural backgrounds getting together and having a really positive, family-friendly, wonderful celebration year after year.
DJ Rose Gold to play some tunes. We just also wanted to say thanks for everyone who came out this evening. This has been a very very powerful evening. We like to give a big big thank you to all the organizations, every single individual who just came through and, opened their minds and ears to conversations that, we don't typically get to have on a regular basis, especially at a time like this. So we want to acknowledge that. And we want to acknowledge everybody in the room who, spoke today, who shared their expertise, who, spoke about something that I think is very, very powerful. And I think, as I said earlier, this whole theme is unity. And it's important for us to come together because, as, Proverbs said, it takes a village to raise a child. And it also takes, people coming together to bring change. So, that's a very, very, very big point. But we're about to jump up and wave up and thing and do some shocky dancing and some azonto. Because we got DJ Rose Gold on the ones and twos.
It seemed like everyone was enjoying the soca vibe, so I think I'm going to go back to that for a little bit.
You're going to be jumping and waving? We're liming.
Listen, Femi, we already discussed we can't talk about the C word.
No, we are celebrating Caribana inside of our house. We quarantine. I even have my towel. Eh? What you mean? Face mask quarantine. I'm jumping away with my face mask. But for those of you who are not members, please join the OBHS as a member. Thanks again to all of our speakers, performers, board of directors, staff, and also big thank you to Michelle. She was doing a lot of work behind the scenes. So, we really would love to acknowledge her and all her efforts of putting this thing together. This is 2020 Emancipation Day celebration. DJ Rose Gold, take it away. We jumping and waving. I need to see everybody's flags in the comments. Put your flags in the comments. Rose Gold volume. Rose Gold volume.
Thanks so much for having me, everyone. Have a good rest of your day.